Okay, so if I want to graph this inequality into variables, the first thing I want to do is just graph the boundary line. So I want to graph basically what this would be if it were an equation. So first I'm going to factor it into x minus 2, x minus 3, so that I can see where the roots are. I'm going to make this a little bit further down. So my roots are going to be 2 and 3. Then I look at a here, or my leading coefficient. My leading coefficient is 1, which means my arrows are going up. So my graph is going to look something like this. We don't really care about the vertex for these types of problems. And then, once I have my boundary line, I basically just pick a point and plug it in. So I'm going to pick 0, 0, because that's a really easy point. So when I plug in 0, 0, I get 0 is less than or equal to 6, and this is true. Oops. So that means because my test point was on this side of the boundary line, everything on this side of the boundary line is true. So I can shade all of this in as true. Now everything on this side of the boundary line is going to be false, so I don't shade that in. I just leave that blank. And then my last step is basically just to look at whether that boundary line is true or not. And because this is a less than or equals to sign, that means the boundary line is going to be shaded in as well. If this were just a less than sign, our boundary line would not be shaded in. So this would be your final graph. You don't have to have this true statement here. That was just to help you. Okay, let's do one more. This one's a linear equation. So the first thing I want to do again is to graph my boundary line. In order to do that, I'm going to put this into y equals mx plus b form. So first I'm going to isolate the y. Okay, so then remember y equals mx plus b, this is going to be our y-intercept at 2, 0. And then my slope, I'm going to go down 2 and over 3 to get my x-intercept, and my boundary line is going to look like this. And then the same thing as before, we just take a test point. I'm going to take 0, 0 again and plug that in. So 0 is greater than 2 minus 2/3 times 0. 0 is greater than 2. Okay, that's false. So we know everything on this side of the boundary line is going to be false. And everything on this side of the boundary line is going to be true, because it has to be the opposite of whatever the other side is. So your final answer would just be shading in the true side. And then we have to look at whether the boundary line itself is true or not. And because this is just a greater than sign, and on this line is when 2x plus 3y equals 6, and we're looking for when 2x plus 3y is greater than 6, this is just going to be a dotted line because this is not included in our answer, but everything right up to that is.